Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Sharp, and I'm the director of the Ohio State School of Environment and Natural Resources. It's great to see so many of you joining us today. If you're like me, you woke up to a lot of snow. I had a wonderful walk through the Walhalla Ravine this morning. It was lovely. We've actually, despite the cold weather, had some just sort of beautiful landscapes to look at. So hopefully many of you had a chance to get outside and just sort of walk around. My dog loves this light, fluffy snow, and my kids do too. So hopefully you're enjoying this winter weather. If we were having our regular meetups, I'd be curious whether we'd be actually having much of a crowd, but because we're on Zoom, we should not have anybody deterred by the weather joining us today. So thank you. On behalf of our school, I want to acknowledge that Central Ohio is the traditional homeland of the Shawnee Nation, Miami, Wyandot, and other indigenous nations who have strong ties to these lands. Today, individuals from a broad range of indigenous backgrounds call Columbus and Central Ohio home. As a land-grant institution, we pay our respects to ancestors, elders, and relations past, present, and emergent. If you haven't had a chance to view our EPN program from last month, I highly encourage you to do so. January's program featured tribal and non-tribal authors of a climate change adaptation plan for ecosystem restoration and community development in the Great Lakes region. In addition to those speakers, Dr. John Lowe, director of Ohio State's Newark Earthworks Center, shared with us that while there are no federally recognized tribes currently owning land in Ohio, there are over a dozen tribes in neighboring states, including Michigan and Indiana, that are. This includes the Potawatomi Band of the Pokagon Nation, which is actively stewarding lands in what is now Indiana and Michigan. The EPN and faculty in our school have connected since that program with their nation's Department of Natural Resources for potential research collaborations, student recruitment, and career networking. We believe there's great potential for us to learn through traditional, indigenous, and ecological knowledge. When you get a chance, please visit our EPN YouTube page, which you can access at epn.osu.edu to view that program and additional resources online that are associated with it. We look forward to seeing where those pathways take us. On a different topic related to the field of sustainable development, career networking, and alumni connections, let's turn now to today's program. I see that we have registrants still signing into our program. I know this includes a fair number of student attendees from a few different universities and colleges here in Ohio. For those of you who are following and staying up to date with activities on Ohio State's Columbus campus, you may know that we are now in our 4th week of classes and our 2nd week of some face-to-face instruction. In case you're interested in coronavirus statistics on campus, last fall, shortly after classes began, the student positivity rate was at nearly 6%. To date this spring, the 7-day average rate for all students is less than 1%, with the on-campus average at 0.3% and the off-campus average at 0.87%, which is an encouraging sign. We really appreciate everybody in our community taking this public health threat very seriously. Here in the School of Environment and Natural Resources, we have begun to resume some small in-person classes. We're not able to deliver as many classes as we'd like to, but we are very much committed to offering some of our experiential learning. So many of our classes that involve getting outdoors or interacting in groups are taking place. But the majority of our classes are still taking place online. That said, to maintain the safety of all our students, faculty, staff, and community partners, most of our teaching is occurring online. If you're like me, you're getting an Amber Alert from somebody right now, so apologize for that. While there are many challenges at present, this arrangement has presented some new and innovative ways to explore learning and career networking through alternative online formats. For example, our career services team is holding consistent video-based express drop-in appointments for students. Next week on February 17th, we are hosting our Environmental and Sustainability Career Fair in a virtual format. Please refer to the details on the screen. We have 27 employers registered so far, many from Ohio, as well as some companies joining us from out of state. We are pleased that Cardinal Health will be among the employers to connect with interested students. Students will register by signing up for specific time slots to speak directly with employers. If you are a student interested in sustainability and environmental careers and have questions about this event, or if you are an employer looking to share about job opportunities or other career pathways within your organization, then please visit the website featured on the screen or send an email to Lucia Hadala, who serves as the career development coordinator for our school. While we are mentioning Lucia, I want to extend a thank you to her for initially suggesting this program topic to Joe and the Cardinal Health and Net Impact teams who you will hear from today. The EPN strives to work with our other entities around campus to connect our community together for learning, inspiration, and professional networking. I'm excited to share at the end of today's program details for our March EPN activities, which will provide some enhanced networking through a virtual format on the topic of careers in water management. Okay, so I imagine we have some logging in here who are wondering if this event is set up so that everyone on the webinar can see you. Well, do not worry because your cameras are not on and there is no way for them to turn on and your audio will be muted throughout. There are opportunities for you to engage with our panelists and one another. Please feel free to share your name and where you are joining us from today in the chat feature. And if you would like, add to that who you work for or what interests you about this program. I really appreciate when people take the time to share this because it's useful to sort of get a sense of who all is participating. In this era where we don't get together physically, it's just nice to know where we're all coming from and at least have those little moments of humanity touching each other. When you go to type that in, please consider adjusting your chat message to send to all panelists and all attendees so everyone in this program can see. We are always trying different approaches to build community through our Zoom-based arrangements. This program is being recorded and edited, and an edited version will be published on our EPN YouTube channel next week. Today's program has at least two running themes that build upon the words pathways in our event title. One pathway that we will explore are the strategies behind Cardinal Health's work to launch a global sustainability effort. Our speakers will share about the myriad of paths they have taken as environmental professionals to create, evaluate, and advance Cardinal Health's sustainability goals, both internally as a massive global company and with their many business partners and our federal government. Their work aligns nicely with Net Impact, an Ohio State student organization that emphasizes the intersection between business and sustainability. Student leaders from this organization will soon be sharing about their work and what they want sustainability to encompass in the private sector. This leads us to the second pathways theme of today, that is career paths. When pursuing their bachelor's degree in environment natural resources here at Ohio State, I don't believe that Andrew, Mike, or Caleb would know exactly where or how they'd be applying their E&R degree professionally. They will share with us about the pathways they have taken to get where they are now professionally and how they are shaping the field of sustainability. Abby and Kate, early in their career journey, will share about their sustainability aspirations in this career field. Today, we are excited to share about the work of Cardinal Health Incorporated. This year, in light of the responses we've needed to take, both as a global society and within our local communities to combat the coronavirus, our hearts and minds go quickly to those staffing and supporting our hospitals, health systems, pharmacies, clinical laboratories, and physicians' offices at home and worldwide. Cardinal Health works to provide critical supplies to these healthcare facilities in a supply chain that spreads across 46 countries. Cardinal has over 50,000 employees and ranks among the top 25 of America's Fortune 500 companies. They are headquartered in Dublin, Ohio, just up the road from our Columbus campus. On the screen, you will see our agenda for today. I will briefly share short professional bios for each of our speakers on the slides ahead. I encourage you to review your screen. I also have to apologize if you're hearing sort of a scratching sound in the background. I have a dog behind me chewing on his dog bone here that I'm keeping at bay during this presentation. So I apologize if there's any disruptive sound coming from my mic. And I appreciate that all our presenters today, and we've had this in the past, are dealing with the same situations in their home environments. So thank you for everybody's patience. Thanks to Kate and Abby for helping develop this program and representing Ohio State's Net Impact Student Chapter. I was closely involved with the creation of the Environment, Economy, Development, Sustainability Bachelor's major here at Ohio State. And it's very neat to see both of these students pursuing degrees, both as a minor for you, Kate, and as a major for Abby. Andrew and Mike, I hear you were the first to connect with the EPN about today's program. Thanks for helping to generate ideas for this collaboration, including the cross-generational panel perspective that we have represented today. We are so proud that all three of today's Cardinal Health speakers are alumni of our school and serve on Cardinal's environment, health, safety, and sustainability teams. Caleb, glad you are part of the team today as well. Very excited to learn more about your work on the data collection and management side, which we all know is critical in the field of sustainable development, monitoring, and evaluation. Extended speaker bios are featured at our program page located at epn.osu.edu. Please notice that in the chat box, Cecil has posted some basic directions if you have general comments. Please post those on the chat box, as well as to troubleshoot technical or connection issues directly with our event hosts, Joe and Cecil, in case you have them. We encourage you to ask questions directly to our panelists during this program using the Q&A function that is located in the Zoom taskbar at the bottom of your screen. If you have a specific question for a speaker, then please type in the @ symbol followed by the speaker's first name. Our speakers will be typing their replies to your questions throughout the program. We will also have a dedicated panel discussion and question and answer session at 10:55. Please make sure you click the Q&A icon to activate that feature and to see any questions that our panelists may have answered. Thank you, and it is a pleasure to hand the program over to Abby and Kate, who will share about their environment and sustainability work and interests here at Ohio State.
All right, hi everyone. As briefly shown, my name is Kate McCarthy and I'm the president of Net Impact. So what is Net Impact? Net Impact is a sustainability and business student organization that aims to expose our members to a wide range of sustainability related career paths. We also try to educate ourselves as well as the rest of Ohio State's community on how we can live sustainably. And lastly, we try to advocate for sustainable initiatives on campus. And so we welcome all students from all majors and all backgrounds. And although Net Impact is a Fisher College of Business student org, we actually only have 40% of our members in business. The rest are in the College of Engineering or in CFACE. And so here on the next slide is an overview of what we've been able to do in Net Impact. So we try to engage our members in a wide range of different activities and opportunities that we hope are beneficial, valuable, and hopefully are fun. And so on the next slide, we have some of our specific past events and past projects that we're really excited to get on the ground. And specifically last semester, it was our first real semester going virtual, but we still were able to secure 6 guest speakers, ranging from CEOs of nonprofits to creative directors of sustainable swimwear companies. Net Impact was also able to collaborate with SDNR in order to create a sustainable careers panel that featured a diverse array of SDNR alumni. Now moving into Net Impact's overall mission. As you can see on the slide, we kind of have a big mission and we do a lot of different things. But most importantly, we try to educate our members on all the sustainable business initiatives that are going on around our communities, but even around the world. And so we do this by trying to connect our members with business and sustainability professionals so that they can figure out what's really going on, how can they better prepare themselves for different careers once they graduate. In addition to that, we also try to give our chapter opportunities where they can grow professionally. So we try to host business workshops where they learn how to network, utilize LinkedIn, build a resume, and how to prepare for interviews, in the hopes that our members will be better prepared for interviews and full-time jobs down the road. And lastly, Net Impact also creates project groups each year. So that gives members a great opportunity to kind of work in small groups where they can gain real world experience, and they can also hopefully make a really positive impact. And so with all these kind of different opportunities that we try to offer our chapter, we really hope that our members are able to engage with not only Net Impact's community, but also the Columbus community. So in order to create that lasting and thoughtful impact. And with that, I'll be turning over to Abby Thiel, who is our VP of National Programming.
Awesome, thank you, Kate. So yeah, like Kate said, my name is Abby Thiel, and I'm a sophomore at the School of Environment and Natural Resources, majoring in Environment, Economy, Development, and Sustainability. And I'm the former VP of National Programming for Net Impact. Okay, so I'm sure many of you are already familiar with this concept of the 3 spheres of sustainability, or as we like to call it at Net Impact, the triple bottom line. And for those of you who may not be familiar with it, it is basically a concept where social, environmental, and economic costs and factors are all kind of taken into account when making decisions or doing actions. So at Net Impact, we hope to embody the 3 spheres of sustainability and how our chapter functions, as well as how our chapter views the concept of sustainability and its application within the business sector. So for the people element, our chapter really tries to focus on the improvement of the individual, or in our case, our members. So whether it's our professional development workshops or service events, we really try to offer our members with opportunities to help them develop as both knowledgeable, compassionate citizens and skilled young professionals so that they're prepared and feel empowered to get involved and create socially minded change once they graduate and pursue careers of their own. The planet side focuses more on the nitty-gritty of sustainability in business. Here, we try to give our members opportunities to learn from well-established sustainability businesses and professionals. So like we mentioned, our guest speaker, career panel, and networking events all have the most relevance to introducing our chapter to different business practices and programs that are environmentally conscious. And ultimately, we do hope that our members can learn from these real-life applications of business and sustainability and to encourage new ideas for incorporating sustainability into the business sector. Profit is the third sphere of sustainability, and this is really where our project groups become important because they help students gain on-the-ground experience with advancing sustainability goals on campus. Because at the end of the day, companies that employ sustainable business practices today are predicted to have long-term profits in the future. So it's important that there is a workforce of people who are prepared and have experience with supporting a sustainability-minded agenda. So I would like to just end with this thought about what we think sustainability should encompass moving forward and as something to reflect on as we progress through this webinar today. Sustainability should be a fundamental component of every business. It must be included in a company's business strategy and engage all parties involved within its operations. So at Net Impact, we believe that business, and in this case, large corporations such as Cardinal Health, have the power to bring about positive environmental and social change. But there must be sufficient willpower for these large companies to actually go out and create this change. So with that, we believe that through education and empowerment, individuals have the power to really inspire this change and help businesses realign their values and expectations so that they are more socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable. So with that, here is our contact information in case if you would like to get in touch with me, Kate, or Net Impact in general. And with that, I would like to thank Dr. Campbell for inviting Kate and I to speak with you all here today, as well as Cecil, Patrick, and Dr. Sharp for facilitating this event. Kate and I are excited to engage with you all, and we look forward to the rest of this event. Thank you.
Okay, well, Abby and Kate, thank you for that. This is Andrew Wehr with Cardinal Health. I'm going to do some screen sharing of my own. Give me 1 second. Okay. Thank you again for allowing Cardinal Health to talk about the future of environment and sustainability careers and maybe where it could take some of you. Mike, Caleb, myself are all proud alumni of The Ohio State University and the School of Natural Resources, Environmental Science and Policy and other things. And we're excited to kind of share not only Cardinal Health with you, but what those opportunities are in a big, public or private employer, and kind of tell you how we all kind of got into our career paths. So again, just to real quickly introduce myself, again, my name is Andrew Wehr. I'm currently the Vice President of Environment, Health, Safety, and Sustainability at Cardinal Health. I joined Cardinal Health almost 15 years ago and absolutely fell in love with this company. Worked for some other great companies as well, L Brands and Allied Mineral Products and other firms, but Cardinal Health is a unique place, and I think what we'll share today is kind of the work we do and the products and the way we support healthcare matters, and it's been a wonderful career so far, and hopefully will continue in the future. We do a lot in the environmental health and safety space. We do occupational safety, or in the US, some people would call that OSHA. We do environmental compliance, like EPA and permitting work. And we also do other things like audits and assessments. But really today, we're going to talk mostly about our environmental efforts and also our sustainability and environmental social governance efforts that myself and Mike and Caleb play a big part in. So with that, the future of environmental and sustainability careers it's really at an exciting time right now, and there's a lot of reasons for that, beyond that it's the right thing to do, and it's the ethical thing to do, and it's a, an honorable path. Customers of Cardinal Health and other companies, they're very interested in sustainability, whether it's products or greenhouse gas emissions and so forth, and so are investors and other governments. Here's a picture of Larry Fink from BlackRock CEO, and BlackRock is a huge investor not only in Cardinal Health but in other companies that see the benefit of a sustainable future. And so there's a lot of groups that are interested in this and care about the environment, including our employees, and even more so the ones coming up through the ranks, where we want to be that employer of choice. They care about these things. And so, around the globe, we are looking, constantly at how do we reduce landfill burden or conserve water, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, make, more sustainable products. And that has really generated or created just amazing career path opportunities in this diverse field. And so I know back in the early 90s when I was graduating, I didn't know all this. And so, hopefully some of this information is helpful for the folks on the line today. But before we begin, let me do a little bit with Cardinal Health and share a video here with you.
They come from all over, the cures and the tools, the medicines and the machines, perfected, collected, and sent with all speed to the caretakers and the cared for, spanning miles, delivering hope. This is their flight, and we are their wings. They give of themselves, their minds, their hearts, their hands, their time and talent, armed with experience, humble with strength, dressing wounds and changing sheets and calming nerves and keeping watch. These are the angels, and we are their wings. They trade in tomorrows. Their gift is more time. They sacrifice years in exchange for more days, trade long nights of study for split-second grace. They bind and stitch and push and discover, leading the way out of pain. These are the pilots, and we are their wings. They engineer miracles, amplify care, manage the treatments and maintain supply. They stave off the outbreak with counsel and cure, bridge gaps between hospital, home, and health. This is their promise, and we are its wings. They trust in the system, the breakthroughs, the work. They put their heart and faith in our hands, all in the quest for better care, all in the hope for health. That is their prayer, and we are its wings.
I think that video, it warms my heart every time I see it. It's just 2 minutes long, but it kind of shows why, I and others have fallen in love with this company right here in Central Ohio called Cardinal Health. It's one of the most caring, thoughtful companies I've ever been associated with, and what we do matters, right? We're making life-saving medical supplies, and we're distributing products to our frontline healthcare systems all over the US and the world for that matter. It's important. And so whether it's your parent or your son or your daughter, a friend or a relative, if they're in the hospital, there's a really good chance you're using Cardinal Health products or some materials that we distributed. And so it matters, right? That we have a company like this in Central Ohio, and it's a global leader in this space. So not to belabor this slide, it's a big company, right? There's roughly 48 to 50,000 people worldwide, 150, almost 153 billion in revenue, billion with a B. That's a number that's even hard to kind of wrap your brain around. And we're just, throughout the healthcare network, even with COVID-19, our services just became increasingly important to get personal protective equipment, not just around the United States, but in January of 2020, sending PPE, that a lot of it that was made in China, back to China to help our Chinese associates over there. And obviously it's spread across the world since. And so that's a little bit about Cardinal Health, and look forward, and again, appreciate the opportunity to share our story a bit. I'll flip through this quickly. I mean, where we are, we're in just about every major country that you can see here in red. Working for a multinational global company, you really have the opportunity to travel the world and meet and experience different cultures and way people live. And it's a wonderful opportunity to expand kind of your horizons on how other cultures and people live. We have 32 manufacturing plants all over the world. Many of those are in the United States, we're proud to say. A lot of them are in Latin America, and then throughout Europe and the Asia Pacific area. And again, just in the US alone, our distribution centers, these are just our medical distribution centers, are scattered across the United States and Canada. So wherever you want to live or wherever you may be, there's a good chance there's a Cardinal Health facility somewhere nearby, at least in that state or somewhere nearby. So with that, let me just explain a little bit about how the global environmental health and safety and sustainability team works, and then I'll turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit about his role. We are only 15 years old. You would think a company that just celebrated its 50-year anniversary would have had an environmental health, safety, and sustainability, kind of corporate function for years, but it really is relatively new. And so we've been at this for, roughly 15 years as a formal corporate function. And while I won't read a lot of these accomplishments to you, there's a lot of things we're proud of. Reporting to CDP, we have our corporate social responsibility reports. We've done. We're taking multiple plants to ISO 14001 and 45001 safety certification, and just now today our partnership with Smart Columbus and purchasing green energy, clean energy is just a million great accomplishments in a relatively short period of time. I like this slide just because from a diversity and inclusion perspective, this function is probably the epitome of diversity and inclusion, right? Whether it's male, female, or any other D&I component that you look at, we tend to bring our folks from across the globe back together at times. And I've always loved this photo because it just shows the difference in cultures and religions and just the way people have come into these roles from across the globe, but yet they all come together to do some amazing accomplishments. Like I said, we do all kinds of things from ergonomics to industrial hygiene, chemical monitoring to make sure we don't overexpose any workforce to, say, noise or any kind of chemicals. We're always looking at injury rates. And we do regulatory compliance or taking sites to ISO certification. But what we're really going to talk about today is the environmental and the sustainability aspects of our role. And also with Caleb, how he pulls all this together from a master data and analytics perspective. So with that, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it from here.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you, Andrew. And good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I just want to thank EPN, Jeff, and Joe for engaging us to be a part of this event. And I'm really excited to share not just the sustainability programs at Cardinal Health, but if there's any questions about my personal path, about how from 2010 when I graduated to where I am now, I'm always very happy to connect with folks. But So my name is Mike Bellantis, and I currently hold the role of Director of Environment and Sustainability at Cardinal Health. And so what that means is that I get an opportunity to deal with the environmental compliance matters on for the enterprise, so on a global scale. Although a lot of our operations are within the United States, this does give me an opportunity to influence how we do environmental work in Europe and in Asia and our Pacific operations. And so that's one very big role that I have. The other piece, and this is similar to what Andrew said, is it's the sustainability piece and the ESG. And I noticed that someone asked an ESG question in the Q&A, and so we'll get to that in a second. But that's a significant portion of my job, and I see that continuing to grow as we support Cardinal Health in improving our ESG ratings for the company. I also get the opportunity to, if we can go back to that one slide, Andrew, I'm sorry. I also get an opportunity to present on energy procurement. So when we talk about energy, it's the energy management system. So it's how we source energy, and then ultimately how we use it, and that ultimately flows up to our energy management system. And then lastly, and this is a growing area for us, especially a global company, it's our product stewardship program. And this is understanding how the products that we use and manufacture, how they can be used and how they can be disposed of around the globe. It's really that life cycle analysis. And so, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, I did graduate from Ohio State, the School of Environment and Natural Resources in 2010. And so what I'd like to do over the next few slides is really build off of Andrew's general Cardinal Health, environmental health and safety overview, and really dig into the sustainability piece that drives Cardinal's sustainability programs. And so first, as we kind of work through these slides, we're going to start at the top. So what are the major influences impacting what we do from a sustainability perspective? And that is ESG, also known as environmental social governance. And so this is simply for those who are on the phone and maybe haven't heard of this. This is the criteria. It's a set of standards that the company's operation that the company operates under in a socially conscious manner. And so it's broken up into environmental criteria, which was where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. But it also has social and governance aspects in the sense that there's interest in how the different business relationships that you have. What are your human rights standards? Where are you taking a stand with labor standards in maybe third world countries? And then the last piece is the the governance criteria, and that's simply getting around to disclosing transparent information about the company that aligns with certain standards. And so this is what ESG is. And the next slide that we'll jump onto is really how is Cardinal Health addressing ESG. So these are I would say our 9, or I guess it's 10 pillars on how we're addressing ESG. And we'll start at the right and work our way to the left. So the governance portions of this program for Cardinal Health include our business ethics, how I mentioned before, are being transparent about our disclosures, and then ultimately our business resiliency. If we shift kind of to the middle of that tree, it's our social programs. This is how we influence the social criteria of ESG, and this is our human rights and labor standards, our employee health and safety, and ultimately our workplace well-being. And then as we get to the left side of that tree in the green, that's really that's the focus of what we're going to talk about today. It's how we drive environmental and sustainability performance at the company. And the 4 pillars that we have around those include climate and energy, chemical management, product life cycle, and water and waste. And then, so if we go to the next slide, the way that we kind of frame up our strategy for environmental and sustainability is using what I would call our 4 guiding principles. And I won't read exactly what those are on the slide deck there. They're right there for you. But these are the guide rails that we use when we're considering projects and initiatives to make sure that what we are doing aligns with our fundamental principles and our values. And so those include things around pollution prevention. They include things like energy optimization. And an example of some projects that we've completed in the past include at our headquarters, we recently converted a significant portion of our lighting to LED, which is showing significant reductions in our greenhouse gas emissions. When we talk about designing for the environment, that kind of gets into that product life cycle where we want to not just react to the environmental concerns about a product once it's manufactured, but really getting into the design of that product to understand from a sustainability perspective how we can make more sustainable products and how we can make sure that that product is in more sustainable packaging. And then the last piece that I'll touch on real quickly is the last guiding principle is our employee and public outreach. And before I move to the next slide, so I mentioned that these are the guiding principles, right? But these are also, in many ways, these are aspirations on how we want to view environmental projects and sustainability projects moving forward. We want to make sure that we're always bouncing those projects off these guiding principles, because then we know that we're going to foster our values, our sustainability values in the products that we produce and the results that we produce in our programs. And so the next two slides, I believe they are two examples, two living examples of recent projects that we've completed that really demonstrate the guiding principles that I just presented. The first project here is an off-site renewable energy project. And so this was an off-site power purchase agreement, and this specific program was completed at our Dublin headquarters at two of our offices in Dublin, as well as one of our largest distribution centers in Central Ohio. And what's really unique and great about this project is that we partnered with Smart Columbus, who kind of plays the intermediate between the businesses like Cardinal Health and utilities. And so in this partnership, in this co-op, we were able to enter into a 13-year renewable PPA. And that means that there's business benefits as well as sustainability benefits. So what we end up doing is we are making an investment through this 13-year program in future Ohio renewable energy. And so some of the project results associated with this specific PPA were that we are sourcing 100% for those two operations that I talked about. We are sourcing 100% from Ohio-based renewable energies. And so that means that because we were able to lock in for these prices for 13 years, we're going to see approximately a $2 million cost savings over the term of this program, as well as we're going to see a 4.2% greenhouse gas reduction year over year as a result of this program. And so that is a reduction of our scope 2. So that begins to kind of demonstrate the magnitude of the impact that you can have when you drive for these environment and sustainability projects, in the business world. And for us, that's working at Cardinal Health. And so this is an example of the offsite, and then we'll move to an onsite. So another really recent project that we completed is in Puerto Rico. And this is an example of an on-site renewable energy project that we just executed. It's got quite a longer horizon on the deal, in the sense that this is a 25-year agreement. But what's nice is that we were able to tackle we're working through tackling one of our largest greenhouse gas emitting distribution centers, which is located in Puerto Rico. And now we're going to be sourcing energy from on-site renewable energy assets. And one of the biggest benefits to our operations is not just the 28% cost reduction for kilowatt hour or the greenhouse gas reduction, but in Puerto Rico, they do not have in my opinion, reliable energy. And what this gives us the opportunity to do is to generate clean, reliable energy on site that we can use in our operations. And from a reliability perspective, this helps to kind of take out some of the uncertainty associated with off-site energy production, because we now can source and generate a good bit of this on site for this operation. And so again, this is just another example of the continued emphasis that we have on sustainability and how we are driving this, ultimately driving our ESG performance through site level actions through these energy agreements. And then the last slide that I'm going to cover here really quickly is a dashboard that we're in the process of developing and distributing. And so this is really meaningful. What we're doing here. And so it goes back to the old adage that what gets measured gets managed. And so what's really cool is this shift in Cardinal Health, where our business unit leaders, So those that are running some of our most profitable business units are asking for environmental dashboards so that they can track and ultimately drive performance in the areas like greenhouse gas emissions, like waste generation, like water usage. And so this is one of the mechanisms that we use to ultimately to measure our environmental performance and ultimately communicate that to business leaders who are ultimately going to make those decisions on how we impact these things. And so one of the other reasons I really like this slide is it's a really nice segue. So the data that feeds this dashboard is housed in our Intellects program, which Caleb Thomas manages. And I will now kick it over to him to present on his piece.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Kind of just the same thing as Mike said. If I wasn't going to go into detail about my career path and how I've gotten to Cardinal Health, but please feel free to reach out to me and I can give you some more information on it. I've been with Cardinal Health for almost 3 years now, and I'll reiterate what Andrew said is it's been a great experience. I love working for Cardinal Health, and I'm in kind of a unique space, as you can see, the subject matter expert for Intellects. So that's our EHS data management platform. And, Mike talked about a little bit, the data that's going into that system, and I'll get into that on the next slide, but I've really been doing that for the 3 years that I've been here. And we've actually transitioned to this system from a system we had before. We realized that this one's a little better. It has a lot more capability than in the past. And so I think a little bit of that is just the growth of our department. Like Andrew said, we're still fairly new, 15 years in, but in 15 years, even just since I've been here, we've grown so much, and data is the source of truth for all of that information, all the things we're doing. So as you can see, I got my Bachelor of Science from Ohio State. So I graduated a year after Mike, and it's funny, we didn't even realize we went to the same school until we worked at Cardinal Health. So we overlapped a year, and I'd imagine we were probably in a class or two at some point. So kind of cool. So what is Intellects? So we have to have a data management system for environment, health, and safety. And I say that because we're a huge company. If you're a smaller company, you could probably get away with tracking a lot of this data through spreadsheets, or, if you're a single site where, there's really only one mechanism to track all this stuff. In our case, we've got hundreds of sites, right? So these companies, Intellects has been doing this since, I believe, 2000, and they've only been growing as well because it's just, everyone sees such a huge need for it right now. And I just listed a couple of, main key areas that we use the system for, but they have way more applications than we would ever have use for. They're all over the place as far as the different kinds of applications that they offer. And so when we did this project to move to Intellects, we specifically picked some of these key applications that we knew we would need. And one of the main things here is sustainability metrics, like Mike talked about. Imagine all these different sites, hundreds of different sites where we need a place to know how we're performing from a sustainability perspective, from a compliance and auditing perspective, health and safety. All that stuff's really important, because otherwise there's no way you're ever really going to understand, who's doing well with renewable energy, or who's doing well with health and safety, where injuries are low and our workers are safe, or ergonomics issues where, everyone is having back injuries. You can't trend any of that data without having a system to consolidate all of those sites and really get a good overall picture of where we are as a whole as a company. So that's what Intellects does for us. And then this is just my last slide. I don't have a lot, but Intellects data, like I said, is our source of truth. So when we talk about environmental sustainability, the way it works, we have a site contact for all of these different sites that we've talked about, and they put all of that data into the system, and it's on a monthly basis. So we saw a need for them to track that very closely, and working with Mike and his team, we have reports going out every 6 months or so to make sure people really understand where we are from a sustainability perspective. And then, you know, Mike took it one step further with that dashboard that he showed that we helped build, where our leaders can get a really quick snapshot of where we are from a sustainability perspective. And they don't have to, you know, go in and try and figure out all these different metrics in an Excel file or something, or we're trying to explain it to them poorly. It's really just a quick snapshot of where we are and where we see, you know, growth and continued sustainability through utilizing the system, and also obviously working with our operations leaders to implement projects like Mike pointed out there. You know, the sustainability, like Andrew said, is only growing. So I'm sure Cardinal will continue to implement other projects like this when they see a need for it. And it's kind of cool. I get to manage the data that kind of shows that true picture of where we are and how we can implement those things. And then I just wanted to quickly touch on like safety and health and compliance. Like I said, you know, sustainability is obviously a very important thing. It's constantly evolving, and it's, you know, changing with companies. Safety and health is kind of like the backbone of the environmental health and safety industry, right? I mean, we always want to protect our workers. We want to continue to improve on those safety and health metrics, and you really can't do that without a system. You know, there's a lot of incidents that occur at sites, and that's just because people are working there, right? It's going to happen occasionally. And we want to be on the front end of that to understand, you know, what's happening from a safety and health perspective and how can we constantly improve on that. And then kind of to the other point of compliance assurance, compliance is a whole other huge initiative that we're working through constantly to improve, right? So all three of these metrics are continually growing, you know, as sites add more and more data, and we're just getting more and more data in the system to understand where our issues are and where we can improve on those. And compliance is fairly new. We tracked a lot of that outside the system in the past, and Intelex has given this ability to start running audits and getting scores in there and seeing where sites are lacking, and, you know, where we really need to have a focus 2, 3, 4 years out, so, you know, we can continue to help those sites out and improve as much as possible. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so with that, I think we'll stop sharing and we'll move on to the rest of our program.
All right, thank you all so much. Appreciate all those presentations. Fantastic to see the work that you're doing. I do want to point, Michael, you have a question in the Q&A from Josh Knights, and I'll just kick that over to you if you've had a chance to read it. Josh asks, are you doing any climate modeling around risks to your facilities, supply chains, as well as impact of climate trends on your business lines?
Yeah, Josh, thanks for the question. That's a really interesting question. So yes, we're beginning that process. And so the one piece that I would just touch on that we are focusing on this fiscal year is the completion of our TCFD analysis or disclosure. So we're coming into alignment with TCFD. And so that's really, I think, that piece that you have to go out and do a scenario analysis to understand how the climate could potentially impact your operations. And that's one of the main mechanisms that we're using to do that evaluation. I hope that answers your question, Josh.
Joe, maybe just to add one other thing to that, Cardinal Health is looking to set a greenhouse gas reduction target by the end of this calendar year, right? And we're working really hard to make that a science-based target, so that's not just a number you pull out of the air. It actually has climate science behind it to make sure that you're truly having an impact, right? And so we're working through that process, and that will be a wonderful announcement as we get close to setting that goal and then putting plans in place to achieve it.
Great, thank you. Cecil, you have a question?
Yes. So scope 3 emissions have been considered to be difficult to collect, and because organizations do not have direct control over such emissions, it can create barriers to reducing these emissions. With Cardinal Health's successes over the past few years in reducing its scope 3 emissions from 23 to 11,000 metric tons CO2e from 2018 to 2020, would you say, one, that the pandemic played a major factor in this reduction? And if yes, what are the ways or measures organizations can employ to leverage these successes to improve reductions in Scope 3 emissions?
Yeah, Mike, one of the things, maybe I'll talk a little bit about just the partnership with your vendors and your suppliers, right? And then you can maybe add anything to that.
Yeah.
See, so I would say you're right. Scope 3 is challenging, right? Because you don't have full control over them. And Cardinal Health being a major organization, it sources from hundreds and if not thousands of different suppliers and so forth. It really takes upstream and downstream partnership conversations, right? From either it's raw materials or finished goods, supply chain partners, logistics partners, to have these conversations. And I would say, honestly, not everybody is, always on board, but you can always Pareto out where your biggest emissions are coming from and have those strategic conversations with those suppliers first. And the good news is most folks are wanting to make a difference, right? And so those conversations aren't difficult to have up front. It's really putting in those action plans that we hold each other accountable to kind of achieving, and you kind of get there naturally, because again, it's good business and it's certainly doing the right thing. Mike, I don't know, anything to add there?
No, I think that covers it. Cecil, I think you were referring to some of the data that in our fiscal year 20 corporate citizen report that we just put out, and it's a great read. It gives you a little bit more detail on some of the initiatives that we've talked about. Sure that the pandemic has had significant business impacts. I can't say that is the primary contributor to that reduction. But I think to Andrew's point in the relationship that we have with Ohio State, we're really working to make sure that we're quantifying and then ultimately tracking our Scope 3 emissions so that we can drive results.
Okay, thank you.
It's challenging, yeah.
So I have a question related to the international work that you do and your broader supply chain. Before I do, I just want to encourage everyone who's attending now to use the Q&A feature to send your questions along. We can all see those. So please pose your questions to any of our speakers, including Kate and Abby, who spoke at the top of the hour. So my question, Andrew, Mike, and Caleb too, in terms of how you're tracking this data, you're working across 46 countries. That's a lot of different national laws. When you talk about compliance, what are some of the things you learned in your career, having such a broad global footprint, about how to work with different countries and different contexts, cultures to get the data that you need to report on your environmental, health and safety, overall sustainability footprint?
Yeah. So Joe, when you do a lot of international travel, right, I think you'll actually be amazed how similar people are, right? I mean, at the core, we all care about the same things basically, right? And so you start from that foundation. As great as Ohio State was in the School of Natural Resources, they can't teach you about the regulatory aspects of 46 countries or whatever it is, right? I mean, I knew nothing about Thailand EHS law. There are services that multinational companies like Cardinal Health can subscribe to, and we do, that give you those tools and resources for how to operate properly in that country, right? So we use a firm called Inhesa or Inhesa. They give us those compliance protocols, right? What's their version of OSHA? What's their version of the US EPA or state EPA? And it gives it to you in a language that you can understand, checklists and things like that. So while we may not be experts, at least out of Dublin, Ohio, in every country, it gives you a great foundation for being successful. And then that's where your local resources as well, right? Our EHS manager in Rayong, Thailand helps us fill in the gaps, and that's his role, to make sure that we're doing everything responsibly in Malaysia or in Ireland or wherever we're, in Latin America, wherever we have a facility. Mike, let's talk a little bit about, there's a question about many healthcare products are considered single use and disposable. How is Cardinal Health mindful of maintaining product sterility when designing or deciding raw materials for those single use products? It's a great question. It's a very thoughtful question. Whoever anonymous attendee is, congratulations. Right, we're healthcare, right? And so there are times when you have to balance the risks to the patient with the environmental risks too, right? Because infections or hospital-acquired infections are a real thing, and that's an obvious thing we have to prevent. You don't want anybody getting an infection in a surgery or so forth. And so you're right, you will see a lot of single-use sterile products that quite honestly can't be reused or re-sterilized, whether that's the components that they're made of or just from the patient safety perspective. But we're constantly looking for options, I guess I would say, right? So if you take a lot of our products can be reprocessed or recycled. I'll talk about maybe like compression devices that maybe you put on your legs or your arms to provide some kind of cardiac compression type therapies. Those can be cleaned and reprocessed. And that comes with some energy use as well, right? So it's not like reprocessing is a silver bullet, but it certainly, you get yourself some options in some of the product lines that we carry. So, Mike?
Yeah, I would just add to that. I know that we're going to share a resource. It's our most recent corporate citizen report, and if you look in that report, there's a section on our sustainable technologies division, and it's getting at, I think, exactly what the question is how we go out into the field and we collect, we clean, we functionally test, and we ultimately repurpose a lot of medical equipment and devices. And so, to Andrew's point, it's something that we continue to look at and continue to try to improve. But there's significant work occurring at Cardinal Health in this area right now.
Mike, one other thing maybe just to add, right? Sterilization technologies, we're constantly trying to work upstream to find safer, healthier sterilization technologies. And that's a major part of what Mike and I do up front on how devices are actually sterilized.
So I see another question in here about what course would you recommend? Maybe we could just go through the panel and answer that. I don't mind going first. It was from Danielle. So what's interesting, and maybe it wasn't my funnest class at the time, but there was I believe it was an environmental class that I had taken, and it was tough. But I tell you what, especially at this stage in my career, understanding the economics of environmental and sustainability initiatives is such a benefit when you can begin to talk finance, which is really the language of business, right? So I got a lot out of that course, and I oftentimes look back at that.
Kate, Abby, anything? You're a little closer to it than some of us, especially me. Anything you would add?
I'll let Abby go first because she's in EADS major. So Abby, you take it away.
Sure, I was just going to say I'm currently taking a life cycle assessment course through Dr. Elizabeth Tillman, and I find that course very useful just because it does give you those fundamental skills on how to conduct a life cycle assessment, as well as maybe life cycle cost assessments. So I feel like if you want those practical skills within a setting where you can use it for either business or any other career that you pursue, that would be a course to take.
And I've just started my minor courses in EADS, so I don't have as many helpful courses, but if you are in EADS or you're thinking about it, definitely enjoy the Intro to EADS class. It just kind of encapsulates all of what people talk about in the business world and how does it relate to all aspects of sustainability, policy, consumer behavior, and just business practices. And it kind of just opens your mind up to how do you start thinking about tackling these problems and then create solutions.
Caleb, anything to add from your perspective?
No, I think Kate's right about that. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do when I started at Ohio State, and I took that intro class, and it really caught my interest, and that's what really made me pursue my career through environment and sustainability.
And I definitely do agree with Kate. Taking that intro to EADS class, which I actually did, as well as environmental law class, which you would actually get a chance to learn all the regulatory side of things, as well as a policy class, which I am blanking on the full name. Those are the classes I actually thought were helpful to actually shape my career path and interests.
Maybe just one other thing to add, Cecil, like employers like Cardinal Health are looking for folks with a broad range of skill sets, right? So you remember, we do ergonomics, we do health and safety, we do what we call industrial hygiene, which is monitoring workforce to make sure we don't overexpose them to noise or, anything like that. It's okay to be a broad generalist because chances are, you got to know a little bit about everything, because environmental health and safety functions kind of look for that skill set. And then you can always specialize later, right? We have an ergonomist, right? We have somebody who's an industrial hygienist. But I would say try to get as broad an education as you can, including that business piece, right? Because that is the language, that's the economic language of business. And, I think all of us have pursued MBAs as well once you get to a certain level, because that is the level of the people you're working with and how they think about things. So that's a great question. And I think some great perspectives.
And I believe there is a follow-up question on that specific topic from Lucia Hadela, which says, for students in the audience aspiring to enter the field of EHS and sustainability, could you share some advice about getting the foot in the door to the field?
Can I go first on that one?
Go ahead, Mike.
That is a great question. And in 2009, 2010, when I was a student, that was a source of great anxiety too, is what am I going to do after I graduate, right? And so, one of the things that I would suggest is, especially early on in my career, I wasn't ever afraid to shy away from an opportunity if it was in the environmental field. For instance, the first internship that I had out of school was like a $1,000 stipend working at a nature center up in the Cleveland area. And, if I look back on my career, that kind of set the stage for my first consulting job working at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, running their stormwater program. And so that would be my advice, is to, don't shy away from opportunity, because opportunity builds your resume and your experience. And that's very valuable.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mike. I remember taking a course, I think it was the policy course at OSU. And I remember one of the guest speakers came in, he was a graduate a couple of years out, and he said, don't be afraid to take, how did he describe it? The lowest of the low type job where, okay, we know this isn't your career forever, but it's hard to get your foot in the door, and wherever you see opportunity to get in there, take it and run with it. Because I had a similar experience as Mike did. I started out doing site assessments for a small contractor company, and was it fun every day? No, not necessarily, but it got me experience, and I built on that and kept getting another job that was a little bit better and a little bit better, and now I'm at Cardinal Health and I really like what I do. So just take those opportunities, and it helps build. Every one of those might not necessarily be a great job at first, but you'll look back and appreciate those experiences.
Yeah. Put yourself out there, right? I struggled to find work in 95 when I graduated, right? I tried the Ohio EPA, I tried consulting, but I just didn't have enough experience, where I think I was easily getting job offers. And so thankfully, I happened to just put my resume in with the OSU Career Center in the department, and a law firm of all places called Squire Sanders and Dempsey in downtown Columbus was looking for a legal assistant, right? And a legal assistant, I won't say it's the lowest of the low, but I mean, it's, you're at the bottom of a law firm when you're the legal assistant at times. You do a lot of errands and a lot of research, but it was the greatest 2 to 3 years experience that I could have had, because I truly learned from very experienced environmental lawyers. I did legal research. I understood how laws and bills and the legislature worked, and it was just great experience, right? And that just opened doors to Allied Mineral Products or L Brands or whoever it may be, right? And once you get your foot in there, though, you gotta show that you know what you're doing, right? So you gotta have your technical skills. Your emotional intelligence and the way you treat people and work with people is probably even more critical, right? And then your work ethic. And if you do those 3 things, you'll get ahead in life for sure. So great question.
I just might want to add just a little bit from a student's perspective, currently trying to do that right now. And I think everyone on the panel, because they studied at Ohio State, they know this, no one really holds your hand when you're here. It's a huge college. So part of the thing you learn when you're a student is you have to kind of take that initiative, take those steps. It's kind of daunting at times, but when you learn how to do that, it really pays off. So utilize LinkedIn, figure out how to kind of start talking to people in respective fields or companies you're interested in. figure out how to do cold emails, and then, do come to these events, because that's another way you kind of learn more about what you're interested in. You can talk to people in the companies you want to work for and utilize all the resources that kind of Ohio State has. It's just a matter of taking the time to do that and to kind of research and to kind of put yourself out there. So I just want to add that.
Kate, I think LinkedIn is another one, right? There wasn't LinkedIn in the 90s that's a great thing. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, and you feel comfortable reaching out to folks that are in companies like the folks on this panel, as long as you're not stalking them repeatedly, I think most people will be happy to give somebody advice, or maybe they just by chance have an opening, and you never know where life might take you.
All right, maybe we can take one more question from the Q&A and then wrap up. I'm looking at Matt's question. Do you see your actions pushing or inspiring other companies to make change? I certainly have a perspective on that, but
Go ahead.
Andrew.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think very ingrained in a maturing sustainable culture is getting your own business and your own company where you'd like it, and then it's the natural progression is to then begin to leverage your relationships and your third-party vendors to push their sustainability programs. We have very key customers at Cardinal Health that are requesting some sustainability initiatives from us, and we anticipate doing the same thing as our sustainability culture continues to mature here at Cardinal Health, and to the point where I would say that we are hopefully not forcing, but we're making agreements with folks to drive sustainability with our suppliers or our other vendors in about 2 to 3 years.
Caleb, anything to add there?
No, I think Mike covered it well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just it's coming from all angles, right? In some cases we're pushing, in some cases people are pushing us, right? And it's customers or government agencies, right? Or even trying to be the employer of choice, where you start to realize this is good business, right? And I think other companies will understand that going forward, and hopefully you see a groundswell of activity in the years to come, for sure. Okay, Jeff, we probably will stop with the Q&A at this point and maybe turn it back over to you guys.
Well, thank you, Andrew, Mike, and Caleb, as well as thanks to Abby and Kate for your contributions and presentations today. Two things that really jump out to me today is one, just it's pretty amazing to sort of see what our Ohio State grads, and I'm sort of self-interested here. I'm always interested in sort of like how you all are having an impact, and it's very impressive sort of like how the kind of work you're doing and how you're doing it. The other thing that jumps out at me is just simply as a teacher is how you ended up where you ended up and the advice you're giving here. I do think one thing at the school we try to do is provide a well-rounded experience. And it's interesting that we have EADS, environmental policy, environmental science folks, all converging with similar sort of careers here. So I always worry that students spend a lot of time agonizing over what major they should pick. And it's interesting to see that you can sometimes all end up in the same place with different majors. So don't overthink it, but really take advantage of the opportunities we give you as an instructional setting. So whether it's sustainability metrics, environmental law or policy or economics, it's great to see that all of our students are getting exposed to those things. Please note that we will send both the Cardinal Health's most recent corporate citizenship report and a web link to Net Impact's Ohio State Student Organization to you tomorrow, along with a survey gauging feedback from this program. We really appreciate hearing back from participants in these programs about what they're hearing, and we really grow from that feedback. As is our EPN tradition, we want to recognize you with a certificate of appreciation and thanks for your participation today, albeit in electronic form. You, along with many environmental professionals who participated today, are helping us learn for life and to positively shape our world. One purpose of today's program was to learn about intergenerational and career field connections across occupations. While we were fortunate to be joined on screen by this great group of SENR alums and current students, we also had SENR alumni working to facilitate its components behind the scenes as well. Both Joe Campbell, class of 2009 and 2013, and Cecil Okta, class of 2017, are SENR alums as well. We want to extend a special shout out to you, Cecil, for hosting your first EPN virtual event as EPN program assistant. Glad you are back in the school, Cecil, at least virtually for now, and off to a great start. Please note on the screen that in 1 month, the EPN returns welcoming Crystal Davis, Vice President of Policy and Strategic Engagement at the Alliance for the Great Lakes, Constance Hawk, Chief Administrative Officer, Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, and Betsy Taylor, Founding Director and Cultural Anthropologist of the Livelihoods Knowledge Exchange Network. This virtual event will give attention to water affordability issues in our region and explore the equity strategies that our speakers have utilized to support residents and communities where there are financial and other stressors that cause drinking and wastewater services to be unaffordable. This event will immediately be followed by a virtual networking roundtable hosted by our partners at the Water Management Association of Ohio. This roundtable event is designed for experienced water resource professionals from federal, state, and local government, private sector, consulting firms, nonprofit organizations, and academic research and teaching institutions to talk directly with students in small groups about career pathways in water resource management. Please visit epn.osu.edu to register for this program today. If you have further questions about either of these programs, then please reach out to Joe or Cecil. Last, please save the date for Earth Day Eve, April 21st, for what will be an excellent virtual program in collaboration with Ohio State's TEDx chapter and Monarch Joint Ventures. I'm particularly looking forward to this event. Less than 2 months ago, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service concluded that listing the monarch butterfly under the Endangered Species Act is warranted but precluded. While there are many factors affecting this decision, one thing is clear: an all hands on deck approach to promoting pollinator habitat will be critical for the survival of the monarch butterfly. On April 21st, you will hear compelling TED Talks from Ohioans leading the way for making and promoting conservation actions to protect pollinator habitat and how they are applying national monitoring efforts on a local scale. Jane Breckenridge will join us virtually from the Uchee Butterfly Farm located in Oklahoma to share about the cultural significance of the monarchs to her Muskogee Creek Nation and actions that are taking in promoting habitat through ecosystem restoration with tribes along the monarch's migratory route. Dr. Doug Talami, author of Homegrown National Park and many other internationally renowned do-it-yourself ecology books, will also join us that evening to share immediate and achievable ways to build monarch habitat at home. Thank you again to our speakers, and thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.